You're listening to We're Talking Sports with Ben Burns and Richie Donnell. Remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, without further ado, Ben Burns and Richie Donnell. All right, everybody, happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday.
Definitely gonna enjoy the weekend, but so we have a special guest today.
We do?
Yeah, Mr. Charles Mosley
Yep.
is here to talk a little bit of sports. It's always good to get a varying opinion in here, you know.
Yeah, first guest on the podcast.
I was kind
as
of
well.
getting sick of it just being us two, so.
Yeah, need some variety sometimes.
Yep. He's not an old lady either, so
No.
that helps.
Yes,
That helps.
absolutely. So I think today, a little NFL, little NBA talk on the schedule. Keep it brief, keep
Cool.
it simple.
Alrighty, hey, it's Fun Friday.
Fun
Gotta
Friday.
have fun.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm Ben Burns.
Richie Donnell.
We're talking sports! Alrighty, so ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Chuck Mosley.
How's it going, guys? How you doing?
Good. It's good to have a guest here. Like I said, really exciting. A guy that knows a lot of sports.
Yep.
And Richie's roommate too. So,
Yep.
what's it like living with Richie?
You don't want to know.
Yeah,
I guess
no,
it's not bad.
You don't want to
Apparently.
know. No, it's not. It's not bad. I mean, he's your roommate. You know, he's your friend, and then sometimes you hate him. I'm pretty sure he feels the same way about me. So you know, that's just how being
Yeah,
a roommate is.
pretty much.
sometimes.
Yeah. That's-
So
Sums it up for the most
Okay.
part. All right, so first topic. So last night, the Cardinals played the Vikings on Thursday Night Football.
Yes.
AP scored his 100th career rushing touchdown, which falls on the same number as two Hall of Famers. Franco Harris is at 100, and I believe Sean Alexander is at 100 exactly. So where is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? I mean, is that a
Yes.
forgiven?
yes, that's a given. I think right now, if you look at Adrian Peterson and his body of work, when it's all said and done, he's going to be an argument for greatest of all time as a running back.
And just to add on that, a lot of people say, you know, the expiration date for running backs is about at 30, 31. I think with Adrian Peterson, seeing how hard he works, you know, we saw him recover from that torn ACL, you know, recover from only playing two games last season.
Right.
Seeing how dedicated he is to his body, I think he goes past 30. I think he can kind of play till he's maybe 35 or even more. So I definitely think he's a first ballot.
So the all-time rank you kind of talked about, he could possibly be the greatest. I mean, right now, is he a top 10 all-time, a top 5 all-time? Maybe not there yet.
He's definitely top 10. I don't know about top 5 yet. I mean, there's an argument for and against everybody that people bring up. You know, people talk about Jim Brown being the GOAT, but then people say, oh, he's before the merger. You know, he didn't really go against the best in the world. He was so far ahead of his time that it was really unfair how he was running the ball against people. My comeback to Jim Brown was he only played 9 seasons and he did what he did.
Yeah,
That's true.
And I think a lot of people can say that about Barry Sanders as well, who only played 10 years and put up, what was it, like 15,000 yards or
Right.
something like that.
Barry Sanders, I mean, he's the modern day GOAT to me. I
Right.
mean, if you look at his offensive line, he had one all-pro offensive lineman throughout his entire career, and I think that was only for one season. He did have good skill position people. We can't say Barry had nothing. He had Herman Moore. He had Brett Perriman. Brett Perriman used to kill the Packers all the time. I couldn't stand Brett Perriman, but he had Scott Mitchell, who was a serviceable quarterback. You know, their passing game wasn't mundane. It was complex. They had the deep ball. They had the underneath routes with Brett Perriman, and then you had Barry Sanders, who, you know, could have 5 people in the backfield and he'd still get around them and score from 95 yards
Right.
away. So Barry Sanders to me is my guy. I know a lot of people say Walter Payton too. I I have to admit, I haven't seen enough of Walter Payton in my lifetime. I mean, he retired not long after I was born. I've seen video and I hear, the type of player he was, and I see his stats and what he meant to the Bears. But he's never popped off the screen to me like Barry did. And I don't want to be disrespectful to Walter Payton. Sweetness was great, don't get me wrong. But Barry Sanders, what my eyes told me was this shouldn't be happening. A person shouldn't be able to do this when his entire offensive line just got crushed. They're right there when they hand off the ball. He makes two people miss in the span of a half second in a 2-foot box. That's the thing. Right. He'll get you in that box, and it's his torture chamber. And he's probably going to tear your ACL or your Achilles or something, and then he's gone.
There was a play, actually, you can look it up on YouTube, where Barry Sanders, in one play, all 11 Chicago Bears touched him, and he still scored a touchdown. I mean, that's just how special this guy was.
Yeah, I don't know any player today, maybe besides Adrian, who can do something like that right now.
So keeping on the same thing, same theme, Jason Witten got 1,000 catches this past week, and that's something that we kind of talked about. Where does Jason Witten rank among all-time tight ends? Compared to like Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, other people like that.
Well, here's the elephant in the room: is Rob Gronkowski right now? Are we already giving him GOAT for tight end, even though he doesn't have the numbers or longevity?
I don't know about.
I'm not.
I don't know about greatest. Top 5. I think we talked about that on a previous episode. About
top 5,
he's
top
in the
10
top
for
5.
sure.
Yeah.
Top 5, maybe.
It's everything is like we've seen mismatches before.
Yeah.
On a football field, there's nothing you can really do with Gronkowski. Either they're too slow, or he's too big.
Yeah, I agree. He is what I think everybody is now looking for in terms of a tight end. I mean, if you look at like the most common talked about is Richard Rodgers, how he looks a little bit slower, but Gronkowski's not the fastest guy either.
You've seen this with other great route runners before. Jerry Rice was never a burner, he always got separation because there's an art to route running that only certain people have. And I think Rob Gronkowski, his connection with Brady, because it takes a while to get that. I think he understands what the defense is giving him, and he'll adjust his route slightly so he still gets open, and Brady trusts and knows that he's going to do that. That's the same thing if you go back to the Packers, what they're missing with Jordy Nelson.
Right.
You can't just implant a guy and say, oh, he can do what he does. No, that's not true. It takes a while to build that rapport with a quarterback. And Rob Gronkowski has that another level with Tom Brady. Probably the same level that Tom Brady had it with Randy Moss.
Yeah.
So
I think you can kind of go back in history, find tight ends who've had such a large impact on an offense. I mean, in the past 15 years, maybe Antonio Gates with San Diego, but at the same time, they had LaDainian Tomlinson.
Right.
Yeah. No, Antonio Gates and Tony Gonzalez started as the basketball players that come over and play football. Those undersized power forwards, and I could see Gronkowski doing that too, being an undersized forward. But
definitely be a power
they
forward.
have that athleticism. They have the hips, because I think outside of playing corner, I think tight end, just the change of direction, especially in the slot and up the seam, they need those hips to get that movement going in that 360-degree circle, stopping and going somewhere else. And I think Antonio Gates, I think that was his really great talent, is he gets up the seam and then you don't know where he's going to go on once he starts breaking out of that route. That's where he was very good, and he's a first ballot tight end. Tony Gonzalez, obviously without question, the only person with more catches than him is Jerry Rice, I believe.
Yeah.
He's first ballot. He really changed the game. Like, first it was Kellen Winslow, and then Tony Gonzalez came in, and there was nothing you could do with young Tony Gonzalez, man.
Yeah, with the Chiefs, I think we saw in the first couple years, whether he went to Atlanta or not, it was a promise or a guarantee that he was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
And he was still awesome in Atlanta too.
Yeah.
Even as he got
He was a red zone threat.
Yeah, he's always a red zone threat.
So let's get back to Jason Witten. Jason Witten a Hall of Famer? I mean,
Absolutely.
I think that's for sure.
Absolutely.
I saw he is actually Tony Gonzalez is the only guy to have more catches than him as a tight end. But where would Tony Romo be without Jason Witten? I mean, for the better part of his career, they always told Tony Romo was probably the most unclutch quarterback, but he always found a way to find Jason Witten, because for a while there, before Des Bryant, I mean, they kind of lacked some true weapons.
They had Terrell.
Well, an old Terrell for a little bit, but I mean, I think Jason Witten is kind of like what you said with Gronkowski to Brady. Witten and Romo is
They
a
have
similar.
a rapport. Yeah, absolutely. They both can recognize the defense and analyze it in the same manner and then adjust the route and the throw. The Richard Rodgers thing about his speed, Jason Witten's never been the fastest guy.
Right.
Like I really feel like I can see him and Richard Rodgers running, and Richard Rodgers would probably leave Jason Witten in the dust, but Jason Witten still gets open.
We'll
Gets
find out
separation.
in what, a week when Dallas and Green Bay play.
In 2 days.
Or
Yeah,
2 days.
Sunday.
2 days. Sorry, this week.
I fully expect Jason Witten to eat because for some reason Green Bay has never covered the middle of the field
Yeah.
since Dom Capers has been here. So
Well,
I
even in
think-
the playoff game, Witten kind of went off.
yeah, Jason Witten will have a great game against the Packers.
I agree.
That goes without question. The thing the Packers need to do is be able to stop McFadden, be able to stop Dez. They'll be fine if they do that. Jason Witten, you just kind of
He always has a good game
You
against
just kind of
Green Bay.
live with it.
Okay, so here's a crossover question for you.
Jeez.
So the 76ers owner has talked about selling the team with as bad as they are. But the reason he's willing to sell is because he's interested in buying an NFL team to put in London. Are we at that point where we're just going to skip Los Angeles and go overseas?
No, we're not going to skip Los Angeles. The actual Rams to Los Angeles move is actually gaining steam. I was listening to another podcast. I believe it was the Bill Simmons podcast, and they were talking about the behind-the-scenes moving and shaking that L.A. and the owner in St. Louis are doing, and it's actually going to come to a vote this offseason with the owners, I believe,
Okay.
for the L.A. move for the St. Louis Rams. So I don't think we're skipping L.A. I think that's on the docket. I don't think L.A. really cares if it gets an NFL team, though.
Okay. As someone who's lived overseas,
Yeah.
I mean, what would it be to see an NFL team, over there, or especially in England?
There are thousands of men and women serving overseas right now that would travel to go see an NFL game, just get a taste of home. I don't think American football would be very appealing to Europeans because they kind of see it as barbaric. As violent as rugby is, it's a controlled violence, and people don't have the lasting, head trauma that NFL players have. It's a different speed, different size player. And rugby, there's not really those open field big hits like that you always see all the time. It happens from time to time, but it's not open field all the time.
Yeah, right.
Smack,
Yeah.
it's not as often as football, and they kind of look at it as barbaric, and they kind of look at Americans as kind of being barbaric too. The way we, carry ourselves, and the way we always need to have a gun and all that
Okay.
stuff. They look at us like, these Americans are insane. But I don't think aside from fan support, I don't think an NFL team in London is very liable. Just think about the travel that one
Right.
team would have to do.
Right.
And I think that's unfair to the players for recovery, for living expenses. That team's going to suck for a very, very long time.
I mean,
I
so
agree.
would it be fair to say that if there is a team in London, I mean, within say 5 years, we're gonna see where we would have to see 3 other teams pop up around the world just to be able to make a division for that team. So, like you said, they're not traveling to the United States every other week, which would be hectic. I mean, is the NFL a league that can be successful worldwide?
That's a good question. Money talks, and the NFL is the most profitable league in the world already. Just having, the American market as sewed up as it is. I know they always want to look for new avenues for revenue, but I just don't see it. I mean, football is a very expensive sport to play, to support.
Yeah.
Maybe I can understand being in England and another, first world country, but it's just not going to get the popularity that it needs. Like, soccer, all you need is a ball. Basketball, all you need is a ball and a hoop. That's why those two are the most popular sports in the world, because anybody can play it at any given time. Football is a little bit different. You can chuck around the football, but then when you want to get competitive, you got to get the pads. You got to find the coaches. You got to do all that stuff. And that's an innate thing in sports is people want to love it because they can play it. So I don't know if football is going to get there around the world. And then to the division thing, all those teams would have to be in mainland Europe in order for it to even, be viable. Just have one team in London and having to go. Imagine
That'd be a mess.
Imagine that team having to play. So imagine a team having a away game, a home game, away game at Seattle, then come back home to London, play a home game, and then go at Oakland. You know,
Right.
they got to go from London
not
to
feasible.
Cali. It's not feasible, and I don't understand why they keep ramming their head against this idea. It's not good for the players.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So Ben, if there was one place in the world that an NFL game could be hosted, where would you go? Where would you want to go? Where would you want to
You mean
see?
not in America?
Not in America.
I mean, it'd have to be Toronto.
You'd want to see Toronto? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it makes the most sense. They already have an NBA, MLB team, obviously hockey. That makes sense to me.
Okay. All right.
And Canadians like football.
Yeah. Well, they do have the CFL, which is
Yeah.
a little different, but it is their own league. So moving forward to the NBA, we kind of talked about this. So the Warriors getting their first loss. You think that is going to happen to Boston tonight before they come to Milwaukee tomorrow?
Yes. I'll be the first one to say their win streak ends tonight at Boston. Klay Thompson's going to be a game-time decision. He tweaked his ankle the other night against the Pacers. I think they're going to hold him out because, again, when you're a team with championship aspirations, and I get it, they want to be in the record books. They want to do something special. I'm all for that. But you don't want to run yourself ragged to run after something and then not have that juice when it's time to win, when it's really time to win. And I think that's what Steve Kerr's been preaching because people forget they won 65 games last year and they started sitting people at the end of the season. They could have gone for 70, 72 wins last year, but Steve Kerr's like, that's not the goal. The goal is to win the whole thing at the end of the season. And I know Steve Kerr isn't there right now. They say he's at like 2/3 of their practices currently, and I'm pretty sure he's preaching that to the coaching staff. Like, look, this record is super, but we got to keep our guys healthy. We got to keep them fresh. We got to keep them motivated. And right now, their motivation is this streak. Once the streak is over, they'll be like, okay, you know what? Back to square one. Let's get better as a team. Let's win this whole thing. Let's get this one seed in the West. Let's make sure we're playing well going into the playoffs, but make sure we get healthy, make sure we get rest, make sure we're rejuvenated. Because again, the West is a murderer's row.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to need all hands on deck to get out of the West. It's not as cut and dry as people think about the Golden State Warriors.
So you mentioned the 72-10 that they could have went for last year. With their depth, is there a possibility that this year they still, even if they do rest people, that they can go 72-10?
I don't think if they rest people, they can go 72-10. On any given night in the NBA, you can lose to anybody. That's just how basketball works. Sometimes the ball does not go in the hoop. It happens. I think they're going to win 65 with ease. I think it's up to them if they truly, even if they lose tonight, 72-10 is still very feasible. It's really up to them if they want to expend that energy to go get it, because that's going to take a lot of energy. Because especially the good teams, like when they play the Spurs are going to want to kick their ass, and you got to bring it against the Spurs. The Cavaliers, when they get healthy, are going to want revenge for what happened in the playoffs last season. So do you want to expend that energy and then not have it in the playoffs? That's the question that they're going to have to juggle and have to deal with themselves. But if they want it, they can go after it. They can get close.
Okay, so question for both you guys.
All right.
Does Golden State repeat this year?
I mean, right now, you have to say yes. They're by and large the best team in the NBA, and they don't even have Harrison Barnes. So I would say yes.
They don't even. Well, yeah, they don't even have their head coach.
Right.
Remember, Luke Walton is coaching his team right now, and as good as Luke is, he's not Steve Kerr. He's not going to make the same in-game adjustments that Steve Kerr would. He's not going to have the same play call if he calls something from the sideline that Steve Kerr would in that situation. So, again, there's a lot of variables as to why even more that this streak that they're on right now is so amazing. If I had to put a top three for titles right now, it's Golden State, then San Antonio, then Oklahoma City. I know Oklahoma City has been a little bit helter-skelter, but at the top of their game, Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant are better than any two other players on the same team.
Now are you talking just the West Coast top three,
No,
or are
I'm
you
talking-
talking
I'm
the
talking about top
entire
three.
NBA?
So not
Cleveland. So I've watched actually a lot of Cavaliers basketball this season, and I know they're missing Kyrie, and I know they're missing Iman Shumpert. And if you look back at the finals, and I tell this to people about all the time, championship teams have balance offensively and defensively. They're not the best offensive team and then the worst defensive team, because you're not going to win that way. You're not going to be the best defensive team and the worst offensive team. It doesn't work. You need to have a balance of both. And the Warriors, for all their offensive struggles against how good the Cavs became defensively, once they lost Kyrie Irving, they still were able to buckle down and stop the Cavs anyway. Balance. The Cavs, outside of LeBron James in the finals, had no offense. None. And I know Kyrie and Kevin Love are going to fix that, but the drop-off defensively, when you bring those two in, how's that going to change the Cavs' balance? And I've watched him this season. Tristan Thompson, to me, is taking a step backwards as a player. I mean, he's a double-double machine. We know what he's going to do. He's going to crash glass, and he's going to get easy putbacks. But he can't defend in the post. He's not a rim protector. He's good at switching, because the NBA is about switching now. That's the type of player you have to be. I know shooting is a premium, but the ability to switch from one position to another and guard it, that probably is the most important trait, the important thing that any player coming to the NBA has right now. And Tristan can do that. But other than that, he's not really helping them. And you see the frustration that LeBron has had at the beginning of the season with the way his team playing. Mozgov has taken a huge step back. I don't know what happened to him in the offseason. Verjav's coming off an Achilles. He's not there yet.
No.
He can't really help him. J.R. Smith, I mean, he is who he is. He'll have his off months, and then he'll have his on fire months. You know, you can't really depend on him night in, night out. Kyrie's going to help when he comes back, obviously. Shumpert is going to take some of the defensive load off of LeBron, but Shumpert can't shoot. So that means people can focus on Kyrie, focus on LeBron, and say, let's make Iman Shumpert beat us. And then when they bring in J.R. Smith, they're going to say, okay, we can attack J.R. Smith as on defense. So you got to think about those. I mean, what do you guys think? If all healthy, what's the Cavs' crunch time lineup?
I would say, obviously, Kyrie,
Yeah.
LeBron, Love. I think Mozgov,
Yeah, I think you would have to bring Verjao
And-
off
and I
the
would-
bench at this point.
and I would say JR.
So Kyrie, LeBron, J.R., Love, Mozgov.
Yeah.
That's not defending anybody.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
the thing.
and we know that,
I'm
Cleveland obviously has their...
I look at them against OKC. OKC would murder that lineup. I look at them against the Spurs. Dear God, the Spurs would annihilate that lineup. And we're not even talking about the best offensive team possibly ever. This season, the Golden State Warriors, what they would do with that. Like, it goes to balance. But the problem with the balance with the Cavs is when you take Mozgov off, they have no way of protecting the lane.
Yeah.
So he probably has to stay out there. Do you take Love off who just signed a max deal? You know, there's some tough choices for David Blatt that he's going to have to make.
Yeah. So Ben, let me ask you this. So for the last couple of years, you're probably the only non-Bucks fan here right now.
Yes.
So as a Mavs fan, so the last couple of years the Mavs have been rumored to have this cap, and obviously they were going to sign all these big pieces. Mark Cuban was looking to spend all this big money. How would you feel if the Mavericks gave $100 million to a bench player? I mean, we were just talking about Cleveland doing that with Tristan. I mean, how upset would you be that your sixth man is getting $100 million?
I mean, it would depend how good this bench player is, but I mean, the Dallas needs starters right now, and I think, Cleveland, they think they're good with, their big three, and adding guys like Mozgov, JR, Shumpert. I wasn't all for the Tristan Thompson deal, just because I think they have other pieces, and more pieces will eventually come. And obviously, Tristan Thompson will never be like a superstar,
Right.
as long as the big three is there.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just
The problem, and so I am a Bucks fan. We all know that. However, my cousin is an assistant coach with the Mavs, so I do care about how the Mavs do. All right, so the Mavericks, they really, Zaza Pachulia has actually been a very good player.
He has done well.
Zaza-
He's played very well for them.
He's done well.
Zaza is
I'm very happy
We
with
miss him here. We definitely could use a little bit of Zaza here in Milwaukee. He's been good. And Wesley Matthews, for somebody that just came off an Achilles injury 6 months
been
ago,
excellent
he's been fantastic for him. The issue is the uneven play of Darren Williams. What are you getting from the small forward position? I mean, we know Dirk's at this point in his career, he can still get you 20 points in his sleep. I mean, he's Dirk freaking Nowitzki, but
he'll make the All-Star team.
The bench for you guys, that's where the worry is.
It's brutal.
It is very brutal. Barea, I think his career is probably over at the end of the season. He hasn't really done anything. I mean, Devin Harris, a Milwaukee product. I mean, he does what he can, but he is who he is at this point.
Chandler Parsons. We were talking about a couple weeks ago.
That's the thing about the.
He needs to step up. He needs to be the guy after Dirk, really.
Yeah,
and he hasn't.
Yeah, he should be positioning himself to try to be a superstar. And he's had some nagging injuries that they really don't release what it is.
No.
So I don't know what's going on with him, but Chandler, that's who I'm looking at to try to. I mean, and Dallas has performed better than expectations so far this season. So we can't really, get on them too much. But I look at Chandler and I'm like, you signed this deal. You're this power broker trying to get DeAndre Jordan in here. You think you're a big win in NBA, but you're not playing like that yet. So I want to see where he goes with this.
And I think the big thing with the Mavericks is they've always been one of the oldest teams in the NBA. And it seems like they always trade away their first-round picks. Luckily, they didn't when they got Justin Anderson from Virginia. I really like him. I think he could be something someday, but that's their problem. They're too old.
Well, they've been old since they had their core being Dirk and Steve Nash. And Mark Cuban is going out of his way to make sure that Dirk is the centerpiece. When
they refuse to rebuild.
Yeah, Mark Cuban's not a rebuild guy. He's a win-now guy. He understands the business side of basketball. You have to have an entertaining, competitive team out there in order to keep getting that money coming in. And especially since he's a larger market team, he's not getting the revenue sharing that a smaller team like Milwaukee would get. So he watches his luxury bill. He makes sure he has a competitive team that's going to make the playoffs. And he makes sure he has a superstar there that's an attraction for people to get there. So he wants to win and he's trying to win, but he's also trying to win in his pockets. And I can't blame an owner for that. But he's kind of hamstrung his team. He should have kept Tyson Chandler. He definitely should have spent that money there and kept Tyson Chandler.
The first time around.
Yes.
After they won the championship.
After they won the finals.
I agree.
He should have definitely kept Tyson Chandler. Other than that, just everything like the what's his name from North Carolina?
Brandon Wright?
Yeah, Brandon Wright. That was, I think, a mistake.
Giving him that big deal?
Yeah, and then they had to get rid of him.
Yeah.
I think that was his one attempt at a young guy, and it didn't go well. Brandon Wright. None of us here are NBA quality players. All of us will admit that. And he will jump at our up fake. So, and he's been in the league what 6 seasons now, 5, 6 seasons.
A little longer than that.
He still hasn't learned. So that was his shot in the dark at a young guy, and it didn't work out too well. So,
I believe they traded Devin Harris on draft day, right? They originally drafted Devin Harris. They traded for Devin Harris.
No.
They traded for him.
They traded for him.
And then he was part of the Jason Kidd trade.
Yes, he went to the Nets.
Yep.
And the Jason Kidd was the return for him, correct. And that's when Devin went and got himself paid.
Yeah. So, we were talking about the Bucks. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Mavericks don't have a first-round pick next year either.
No, they don't.
Traded it to Boston.
And you got to start wondering, Kobe's retiring. Kevin Garnett's retiring. Tim Duncan is going to retire at some point.
Very soon.
Yeah.
Pretty soon. This is year 17 for Duncan. Paul Pierce is going to retire. The only other person that's in the NBA right now that was drafted in the 90s outside of those guys that's still playing is Dirk. You have to ask yourself, when is enough for him? I mean,
until his fadeaway doesn't work.
That's true.
He's going to keep playing.
It's almost unguardable. It's still borderline unguardable. But I'm pretty sure the Mavericks have a good idea of when Dirk is not going to be around. I think if you start seeing them still trading more and more first-round picks, then I think I think at that point, then Mark Cuban probably has not done everything properly because I see at the latest Dirk plays one more season after this one. To me,
Okay.
that's just how I see his game. One more season after
Okay.
this.
All right. So we're kind of talking about are you a Bucks fan? Besides caring about the Mavericks, where are the Bucks headed? I mean, right now there's a little bit of a struggle.
The Bucks are headed to the lottery this season. It's too little, too late with the changes that they've made in their starting lineup and their rotation. I understood why they went for all this length, and like I said earlier in the podcast, there's a premium on being able to switch each position, and the Bucks can do that in bunches. However, losing Zaza and losing Jared Dudley, two guys that communicate a lot on defense, because half of defense is effort, a quarter of it is communication, and then the rest is execution. The Bucks have effort. They don't have communication and execution on the defensive end where they made their money last season. They're trying to turn Giannis into a defensive stopper, but the problem is Giannis doesn't know what's coming behind him, and he gets himself in a bad position. And Giannis has a foul problem this year. He gets in foul trouble quite often. Jabari still looks a little bit lost on defense. He's a young. This is still technically his first season.
Yeah.
He hasn't even played 50 NBA games yet at this point. He's still getting used to all the concepts. Greg Monroe is a good rebounder. He's not really a rim protector. And he's not the quickest guy in the world either. And he's not much of an athlete, as we saw what DeAndre Jordan did
Yes,
to him.
yeah. Did you see that?
No.
By chance? So
DeAndre Jordan put him on the poster.
yeah, Chris Paul was bringing the ball up, and DeAndre, like DeAndre does, just took off down the paint. And Monroe stepped up, and DeAndre Jordan essentially, let's just say he almost Brandon Knighted him. If you remember, remember that.
Wow.
Yeah, he was probably halfway between the free throw line and the hoop,
Wow.
and just went over the top of it.
Yeah, Chris Paul was coming up the baseline actually, and DeAndre was. I don't know why DeAndre was positioned so high up on the court at the top of the key, but he just dove, and Chris Paul hit him perfectly in stride. Monroe got there. Monroe got outside of the restricted area, but DeAndre was already up in the air, put his knee in his chest, and just hammered it through him. It was pretty bad, but that's the thing about Monroe. Monroe, they got him for his scoring, and they got him for his rebounding. Defense has never been his forte, so they got to do things around him to make the defense better. And the Bucks' defense has been better the past 6-ish games or so. I'm not sure what they did to change the defensive concepts. I know the offensive concepts, they got Mayo in the starting lineup now instead of MCW. I know MCW's been struggling this season, but I think that's good having him come in and play against mainly bench players to get his confidence back and get his game back. That's actually pretty smart. But just the Bucks this season, I mean, who are the shooters? Middleton, Mayo. You've got to be able to create space in the NBA, and people just sag off of Giannis and sag off Jabari, and then just stick with Middleton and Mayo. I mean, that's what putting Mayo in the starting lineup did, just make some breathing room. But they're headed for the lottery this season, which isn't a bad thing. When you're a young on the rise team, you're going to have hiccups like this. Yeah. And there were some columnists, Zach Lowe was predicting that before the season because he was like, I don't see how this team makes sense on paper. Mm-hmm. And, me as a Bucks fan, I was like, no, of course not. They'll be like a 5-6 seed, but he's right. The proof's in the pudding.
And Jason Kidd even made a comment, I think it was to the Journal-Sentinel, saying that all this length looks great on paper until you put it on the court. Mm-hmm. And then back to the execution, that's kind of what they've seemed to lack. And then yesterday they announced Miles Plumlee, sorry. They're taking trade offers for him. So, I mean, to trade probably their number 3 big. What is it that the Bucks are going to need to get in return, or what are they hoping?
They need there's a specific type of player in the NBA called a 3-and-D guy, a guy that can shoot threes and also defend his position very well. That's a Kawhi. That's a
Bruce Bowen back when.
Yeah, correct. Bruce Bowen, Wesley Matthews. That type of player, 3-and-D. That's definitely what they need. I was hoping Rashad Vaughn would become that guy. I can see why, and we were talking about this the other night, why he's not getting the minutes that we thought he should be getting at the beginning of the season. Definitely that. I think possibly a more traditional power forward.
Okay.
To put with Monroe to help protect the paint. maybe so in order, a 3-and-D guy would probably be the best bet. A traditional power forward that's not Johnny O'Brien, or a stretch four. I think those would probably be the 3 biggest needs in order for the Bucks. I don't know what Miles Plumlee is going to get you, though. I mean, his body of work, he doesn't get on the floor.
Right.
I mean, who's going to really give you something worth having for him? So I think their actual biggest trade chips right now are Mayo, or Bayless. Nobody will want Vasquez. They probably would get something for, I can't think, what's the third point guard's name? The second year, Tyler Ennis.
Yeah.
They might get something for him. I mean, he doesn't see the court. So
Is there a guy, I guess, available for the Bucks right now? I mean, I know it's only December. The trade deadline is until February. But names are going to start coming up. I mean, is there anybody that you can think of that might become available that the Bucks should go after? I mean, or is this a year that they should just wait and not be buyers, I guess, so to speak, and just trade for maybe a young guy?
What about like a Bellinelli?
Bellinelli won't play. Bellinelli can shoot, absolutely, but you got to be. Jabari gets to play because Jabari is a top pick, and they think Jabari can turn into a generational scorer. But Bellinelli plays even less defense than Jabari, and Jason Kidd wouldn't put up with that, and he wouldn't crack his lineup.
Well, beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, that's true. And it goes back to what the front office and what the ownership wants. Does the ownership want them to be a playoff team, or do they think, let's get pieces, It's funny, I was talking about the Celtics earlier about their whole situation with Golden State tonight. The Celtics and the Bucks were both in a rebuild phase, and they both going about it a little bit differently. The Celtics have been amassing assets.
Yeah, with all the first-round picks they have.
But if you look at them, the concept that they put on the floor is actually working. So now not only do they have assets, but they actually have a good basketball team too. The Sixers have just been trying to amass assets, wins be damned. The Bucks have somewhere been in between that. And right now, the Bucks still have assets that can pull them something. I think if you had, right now, if you looked at the Bucks roster, there's only 3 untouchable players. Jabari, Giannis, and probably Middleton.
Yeah.
Everybody else is available for
Well,
the right.
and I would think Monroe. Right now.
If somebody offered something up for Monroe, I think they would take it, because you don't sign Henson to that type of money if you don't think Henson's not going to start at some point.
Okay.
I mean, Henson, that's the thing, for all of Monroe's mixed innings. I'm not saying Monroe's not a good player. He gets you your 18 and 10. That's all I wanted from him. But we're missing a dimension defensively, and Henson brings that. Henson's not going to get you to 18 and 10. Henson will probably get you 12 and 9, which is fine, but Henson's going to get you 3-4 blocks. The paint's going to be taken care of.
Yeah, much like we saw in the Portland game. I mean, the only reason they really won that game was Henson came up huge with that block at the end of the game.
Yeah, I don't know if Monroe is there in position. I don't know if Monroe doesn't foul in that position. So, and that's the thing. Monroe has kind of a tricky contract. It's supposed to be like the 5-year 75, but he actually has an opt-out after 3.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the Henson deal is so important, because after 3 seasons, Monroe could be gone and say, I want the Supermax. And they're like, okay, go get Supermax somebody else. We still have John Henson for another 2 or 3 seasons cheaper than that, because Henson signed an extension, correct?
Right.
So he's still in his rookie deal this year, and then next year
Next year's the extension.
Yeah, so then they'll still have 2 years of Henson after that. So I don't think they're worried. Henson is an asset too, come to think of it. Henson actually probably will pull us the biggest piece if we did get rid of him, but you need a center, and you'd have to keep Plumlee.
Right.
So
going forward, either of you guys, do we see any major deals go down this year at the break? I mean, usually All-Star break, when everybody comes together, that's kind of when we start to hear the rumblings, because guys are meeting and everybody's in town at one location. Do we see any blockbusters this year that kind of sets anybody over the top, or we look back and say, wow, like that is just a mega deal?
It's kind of hard to say at this point. I still think we have a couple months where, we're gonna see the cards of more of these teams, and see kind of who's really serious about the playoff push, and the last couple teams in or out. You talk about a team like the Houston Rockets. a team that sure has the talent to
Right.
be a playoff team, but hasn't played like it. Do they make some kind of move? You know,
I'm going to swing for fence here on this trade because there is a team president that is always looking for opportunities to make deals and win right now, and Cleveland, you know, for as much sputtering as it's done, obviously they're going to get a lot better when they get back Kyrie and Shumpert. But Pat Riley has to be licking his chops saying, we can win this thing. We can beat this team. But they're missing just something. I'm going to throw out a blockbuster right now, and
All
you
right.
guys can say what you want.
all right.
Goran Dragic and Luol Deng to the Knicks for Carmelo Anthony to Miami.
Wow.
That is a blockbuster because I mean,
The money matches.
well, the money matches, but I think the
makes
biggest
sense.
blockbuster
I
would
think
be
it
the
makes
fact
sense.
that the Heat. I think we knew the Heat were going to be better because they got everybody
They got
back.
healthy, yeah.
They got healthy, and they got a full year with Dragic so far. I
And
guess.
Whiteside.
But the Knicks are also fighting for a playoff spot
But
as well.
But the Knicks actually are being smart with basketball now. Porzingis, first and foremost, let me qualify myself. I thought he was going to be trash. I thought he was going to be
Oh,
trash.
same
I think
here.
there was a lot of
Same
us,
here.
man. I think we're all
Oh
in
man,
that
I'm
category.
eating crow. He is good.
He's
He is
very good.
very good already, and he's 7'3".
Is he?
What do you do with that?
Is he the next Dirk Nowitzki? I mean, you watched him for most of his career. How comparable is he to
First
Dirk?
of all, Nowitzki.
Sorry,
you were doing
I'm
a
sorry.
sports podcast.
Right.
I'm sorry.
You see,
I'm
you
sorry.
saw I said Nowitzki too, young
sorry.
fella. You got to
I'm
get
sorry.
that in there.
And second of all, I think he can be a modern day Nowitzki.
Okay.
You know, kind of this new version of him. Obviously, they have two different kind of shooting styles. I think, you know, Porzingis, he's going to work on his three-point shot a lot more over his career, and he has plenty of time. So, I think he can be at that level.
I think if you're the Knicks, you take Luol Deng, you take Dragic, because you have Dragic locked up for the next 5 seasons, so you have your point guard that can build some rapport and actually get some good shots for Porzingis. This is still one of those few seasons that the Knicks still have another first-round pick, because remember, they didn't have him for a long time.
Yeah.
Porzingis was the first they got in a while. I don't see why you wouldn't do that as New York. You save some luxury tax money. Porzingis will fill the seats. People love him in New York. You still be a semi-competitive team because Carmelo hasn't really had that good of a season. When you break down his statistics, you know, they're kind of winning in spite of Carmelo having a sort of down year. You get Luol Deng, you get a reliable guy that's going to give you 15 points and good defense. So I'm not going to say the drop-off is going to be terrible for the Knicks. I think it drops them off enough so they don't make the playoffs and they're in the lottery to get a good pick, because this is actually, so far this year from what I've seen in college basketball, this is actually going to turn out to be probably the top 5, top 7 picks are going to be pretty good players this year. So if the Knicks can find a way to get in there, that helps in. On the flip side, Miami, and I hate to cut you off, the flip side, Miami, that gives them a reliable source of scoring because Chris Bosh and both Dwayne Wade have been a little helter-skelter. Hassan Whiteside has actually been their most consistent player this season. So, boy, oh boy, that would be... I would love that trade just for what the Eastern Conference Finals will become. We finally get Melo versus LeBron
Yep.
for all the marbles.
That's what everybody's wanted,
Yeah.
I think, since day one, since they came into the league.
Yeah, first of all, hashtag helter skelter. I think we can get that trending. Second of all, can the Miami Heat be an elite team with Tyler Johnson as their starting point guard?
You know, Dwayne Wade ran point as a...
So you're going to say you want Dwayne Wade at point guard?
Here's the thing. Dwayne Wade picks his spots offensively now in the first place. He tries to get everybody else going. He was the season, Miami won like 18 or 19 games. They won something nuts at the end of the season, actually getting the playoffs his rookie year. And that's when they moved him to point guard when he was playing with Caron Butler and Lamar Odom. He can do it. Dwayne Wade's a good enough passer to do that. It takes, obviously, Melo there takes some scoring responsibility off of him, off Bosh, because Dwayne Wade can be your primary scorer, but he can't do it every night at this point in his career. Bosh, he's an underrated player to me. People always criticize him for his softness or whatever. He's a very good and going to be a Hall of Fame basketball player when it's all said and done in his career, but he doesn't seem like a primary guy right now either. So they need that primary scorer, which Melo fills, and they both can fill in the sides. I think they won't be as good as the Heat with LeBron, but they may be good enough to beat LeBron if they get Melo at that point. And you just live with D Wade running point or Tyler Johnson, and Tyler Johnson's not bad. Tyler Johnson,
He's no Dragic.
he's no Dragic, but remember they were winning titles with Mario Chalmers running point.
What are you saying about Mario Chalmers?
To be fair, before LeBron even got there, they won the finals in 2006 with an old and rickety Jason Williams running point.
And I believe Gary Payton was on that team.
With
Mike Bibby was
no,
in there for a while.
No. Bibby came when LeBron came.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The 06 Heat, that was
That's
But
right.
I believe
That's
Gary
right.
Payton was
that
on
was
that team.
Jay Will, that was Gary
That
Payton,
was-
and I think Carlos Arroyo.
That's
That
possible.
was bad memories for a young
Oh,
Mavericks
God.
fan.
Yeah, sorry, but you.
Hey,
can-
no, we got redeemed. So
Yeah, no, you got revenge in the best
Redemption.
way. You got revenge in the best way. I still look at that finals. In my adult life, I've never seen a player just take it to a level no one else could reach like Dirk did in that finals.
yes,
Dirk wasn't. Everybody else was playing basketball. Dirk was playing something entirely different, and it was amazing to watch.
yeah. Okay, you got to get going soon.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask you one question. We were debating this on Monday, and I just want your opinion. So let's just say Team Chuck is down by 2 with 3 seconds left. If you could choose any NBA player right now that's playing right now, who would you want with the ball?
With the ball, 3 seconds left.
Down by 2.
3 seconds left, down by 2, and I get. Where am I inbounding?
Side
out?
Say side out.
Side out, so we're already brought the ball up court. We got side out. 3 seconds left. That's not a lot of time to get into the paint. I don't want someone small because it's going to be harder to get them the ball. So that kind of eliminates Steph Curry, even though he's the best shooter on planet Earth right now. I am probably 3 seconds left, side out. I'm going to go with Kevin Durant.
See, that's who I went with.
Just okay. He's long, so you can just put him right at the elbow and have him put his arm up. You
Yeah.
want to get the ball to him.
Exactly.
Then you have him. He faces up. He's going to be in a triple threat position, so he can drive or he can shoot from right there. Only person I've ever seen block a shot is Giannis.
Exactly.
Giannis
It's
is the only
unblockable.
it's an unblockable shot, and every shot to him is a good shot. So I'm going to go with KD.
Great minds think alike.
So
He said Steph Curry.
I said Steph Curry.
Well, the problem with Steph is he's tiny. So you shade him with a big, fast person, it's going to be harder to get him the ball.
But for me,
You
I
gotta
looked
get
at
the
it
ball
as
in low.
3 seconds is not a catch and shoot situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives Curry one dribble, and with one dribble, he can almost shake anybody to get an open shot. And that, I mean, more likely he's probably going to take a 3 than versus something in the elbow to tie it up. He's going to want to win the game. But the chances are the way that he is, even with just one dribble, he'll be able to get an open shot.
Well, here's what you do. You're a good coach. If it's a side out, you're going to have a giant guy right there on the inbound, just making it difficult to get the inbound in. You obviously are going to have probably your best passer right there inbounding the ball, so it may not be a big guy. So there's already a size advantage there. Since Steph is a smaller guy and you have a giant guy there, you're not going to be throwing the ball up. It's going to be a bounce pass. The problem with the danger of a bounce pass is you're giving someone a chance to get there. So me, the defensive coach, I'm thinking I'm going to have my best athlete that has more size than Steph, and we're going to force him to catch the ball in the backcourt. Nothing is going towards the basket. We're going to force this inbound back towards that way. So I know Steph can shoot, but I'd rather have Steph take a dribble and shoot a 40, 50-footer than let him get to the basket. So that's why I go with a bigger someone like KD, because KD can start posting up and you can throw it up to him. If you have more time,
I
if
agree
you
100%.
have more time, like if you gave Steph
I get you. I understand.
3 seconds, you don't have much time to work with, and I'm
Yep.
not going to go with the small guy.
So you got 5 minutes before you have to be at this meeting. My last question for you: Is Ben Simmons going to be the real deal? The kid from LSU. I mean, we've seen a couple of his stuff, and they're comparing him to LeBron. I mean, is he going to be the savior for the Sixers?
Well, that is if the Sixers get the
Number one pick.
number one pick. The team with the worst record hasn't got the number one pick in forever.
Okay.
So
I thought the Wolves had the worst record.
The Wolves did not have the worst record last year. Sixers had it
last year. Yeah.
Last year, Sixers had the worst record still again.
Oh.
Because even when the Bucks got
Well,
Jabari,
they said
we
that
had the
on
worst
2K.
record.
Yeah, remember.
Clark Kellogg is a liar.
The Bucks had the worst record when we got Jabari with the 2.
Yeah.
And who snuck in with number 1?
Cleveland.
Cleveland when they got Wiggins and then traded him. That's right.
Yeah, because they got LeBron back that same year.
Yes. So I can't sign off on the Sixers getting them. I think they could use them because they keep getting all these bigs. They need someone that can play on the wings. And even though Ben Simmons is massive, he's a lot bigger than I was expecting. When I saw him, he plays big too. I think he could be a generational star at the 3. I think he's going to be a stat stuffer. He definitely needs to get his shot going. LeBron wasn't the greatest shooter, and he still isn't the greatest shooter, but you trust him now taking shots. I think Ben Simmons can develop into that. Is he going to be LeBron? I don't know, because the thing about LeBron that people, for all his physical gifts, he is one of the smartest players you'll ever see on the basketball court. And I think that puts him when you rank players, I think that puts him in an area where, Ben Simmons will be lucky to get to. I think Ben Simmons will be a great player. I think Ben Simmons, with health on his side, will probably be a Hall of Fame player, but he won't be LeBron. I'll say that now.
Well, on that depressing note,
Let's get you out of here, and I think we'll take a quick break and come back and finish up.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate
I'll
it.
come back again.
All right. You're listening to We're Talking Sports, sponsored by. Wait, do we have a sponsor? We don't have a sponsor.
I don't think so.
We don't have a sponsor yet. When are we gonna get one?
Somebody
please sponsor us.
Let's go.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun.
That was fun. I really do appreciate Chuck. He always has really good opinions and is very passionate about what he says, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck is one of those guys that believes, if you're gonna do something, do it all the way, and very much we saw that with how he talked basketball with us. I mean, it's his favorite sport.
Yeah.
Plays like 4 nights a week, so I mean, he's very dedicated.
I gotta play some basketball now. Like it's been a
You're
while.
feeling motivated.
I
to play
love
some
basketball. Like
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
I want to play with him.
We I know he you should talk to him. He wanted to get a open gym going on campus at some point.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I want to play. Get the headband out.
Get the headband.
I'm already wearing one, but yeah. So, I mean, just to wrap it up, like I said, we kind of like to do fun things at the end of the week. Usually we do Would You Rather. We've done that for the last 2 Fridays. I thought we should mix it up. I found a really interesting thing online. It's called Outrageous Laws Around the U.S.
Okay.
And for each 50 state, there's just a really weird law.
Okay.
I don't know. Some of these are really messed up.
Yeah.
Like, so in Montana, ever been in Montana?
I have not.
Well, in Montana, or in Billings, Montana, which is the largest city in Montana, it is legal to own a pet rat.
Wow.
So I'm sorry. If you got a pet rat, it's got to go.
All right.
Free dinner.
I do know interesting about that. I'm not sure what they may have for Ohio on there, but in Ohio, apparently you are not allowed to walk down the street and drink alcohol. So like how you can tailgate or like Mifflin, they'll have the open block party in Madison, or they used to. Now it has to be if you're not drinking out of a certain material or whatever, you get arrested.
So, do you like playing pinball machines?
Yeah, when I was younger, I used to play pinball.
Yeah, I love that. Well, if you were growing up as a kid in South Carolina, it's illegal for anyone under the age of 18 to play a pinball machine.
What?
Yep.
What?
Yeah,
I just feel like pinball is just a part of every American kid's childhood.
Who knows? Like, honestly, how do you come up with that?
Why would you have to be of consenting age to play ping pong?
I don't know.
Or not ping pong, pinball.
I don't know. So in Vermont, this is I think with this one, like, they must have come up with this law, like, back in, like, the 1600s, and nobody cares to change it.
Okay.
So in Vermont, women must obtain written permission from their husbands to wear dentures.
What?
I don't
That's terrible.
I don't-
That is, God. What's Wisconsin's?
Wisconsin's. So in Wisconsin, holy kid, this is a weird one.
Okay.
I remember reading this, and I'm
Okay.
like, what? So this law has been broken several times.
By you or by
Not by
numerous?
me. Chuck may have broken this law, to be honest.
You just
I don't
throw it
know.
out there.
Well, I'm just, you'll see. So in
Okay.
Wisconsin, tattooing is illegal unless it is for medical reasons.
Tattooing.
Tattooing. Yes. So if you have gotten a tattoo in Wisconsin, and if, of course, it's not for medical reasons, then you have done an illegal act.
What?
So if I see somebody in Wisconsin,
So, but think about it, all the tattoo parlors just in Milwaukee. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know.
that's
Like-
so outrageous. So pretty much, if I become a cop, anybody I see with a tattoo, I have the right to stop them and say, "Hey, where did you get that tattoo?"
Hey, that better be for medical reasons.
Yeah, right.
So we were talking about pinball machines in
Yep.
South Carolina. Well, in El Monte, California, it's straight up illegal to own a pinball machine.
That's.
Do they think it's like gambling or something? I mean, like,
I
you
honestly
gotta
don't
put a
know.
quarter in?
I do know in parts of California that if you get caught walking your dog without a leash, that is a ticket.
I mean, that makes a little bit more sense.
Right.
You know, because, you know, we don't know how dogs are.
Right,
Like, a lot,
right.
I mean, like, my dog is fine without a leash, but it's because he's used to that.
Yeah.
You know, but other dogs just are nuts.
Who comes up with this stuff? I mean, like,
I
who
don't
puts
know.
this in the office?
Weird politicians. So in Arizona, this one is really weird. It is illegal to refuse a person a glass of water. So if somebody asks, "Hey, you want this glass of water?" and you say no, bam! You're under arrest.
That's so ridiculous. Like, what if I don't? That's crazy because I don't drink faucet water. I do not like faucet water. So, like, if somebody offered me a glass of water and said, "Hey, here's a glass of faucet water," I would probably decline. I don't like the taste of faucet water. I will drink bottled water. At school, I mean, obviously, I kind of have no choice, so I will use the bubblers.
Yeah.
But, like, I'd probably get, like, 25 years in jail in Arizona for declining a bunch of water.
So there's two more.
Okay.
Or I'm going to just say two more because these are the two most ridiculous ones.
All right.
In Washington, the Undiscovered Species Protection Act states that it is illegal to hunt or harass Sasquatch, Bigfoot, or any undiscovered creatures.
What?
So if you see Bigfoot around, better not mess with them, or else you're going in the clinker.
Yeah, that's if you make it out of there alive, because if you haven't seen those Jack Links commercials, Bigfoot's a pretty...
He's nuts, yeah.
he does some pretty crazy things. I mean, how can you write a law saying that any undiscovered creature, you have to leave them alone? Well, they're obviously undiscovered for a reason.
I don't know. But they made an entire act.
Oh my
The
goodness.
Undiscovered Species Protection Act.
Oh god.
So this is how our tax dollars are being paid,
That's
or how they're being
maybe
spent.
that, you know what? Maybe that law is the reason why nobody has seen real, actual footage of Bigfoot. All those, rumored videos of actual footage of.
But
the
he's not
Yeti.
just in Washington.
Right, but I
You
mean,
know?
but maybe he happened to be in Washington and Russell Wilson saw him, coming up to the house, and they threatened Russell, and Russell said, "Hey, I have footage," and they said, "No, you can't show that. That's illegal."
Okay, but like Russell has a lot of money, or he is going to get a lot of money.
Right.
He can afford to harass Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Come on. Get J.J. Watt up there.
Yeah, speaking of J.J. Watt, did you see that broken hand?
Yes.
And he's going to play. It's a
Well,
tough,
of course
tough man.
he's going to play.
Right,
He's
right.
J.J. Watt.
Tough man.
All right. So this one is so off the wall. I don't know. I just don't know about this one. Something had to happen. Like, some crazy... I want to hear the story behind this.
Okay.
But in Juneau, Alaska, flamingo owners are prohibited from bringing their pet into a barber shop. First of all, where do I start? Why is anybody owning a flamingo in Alaska?
I think that's where you do start. I mean, that was going to be my question, but I just couldn't stop laughing enough to ask that. But, like, I think that's where you start. If you live in Alaska, you're not.
That's not a good place for a flamingo.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, granted, you have the water source for them and fish. And
It's
whatnot,
too cold.
But yeah, it's. Flamingos are known for being in the warm weather. So if you're a flamingo owner in Alaska,
And who's bringing them in a barber shop?
yeah, that's the second question. I mean, what? All I want to say is if you are a flamingo owner in Alaska and you hear this, please send us a picture.
Yes.
Please. And then, if you could, take them to a barber shop, stand outside. Not go inside, I don't want you to get in trouble, but stand outside and get a picture and explain to us as to why flamingos are illegal in barber shops in Alaska and why you would own a flamingo in Alaska. Please get in contact with us. I really want to understand that.
I don't know. I'm gonna look this up after the show because, like, I don't know. This is just too ridiculous for me.
Yeah, that's.
I'm sorry. I'm too tired to even think about that.
Yeah.
All right, so it's been an awesome show.
It has.
Once again, I want to thank
went
Chuck.
very well. Yeah, thank you, Chuck Mosley. It went very well for our first guest, and
Yeah,
we're working on some more.
we
We're
will
gonna try
have
to get
more
some
guests, and hopefully, we're gonna have Chuck in when we do our best sports movie debate.
Yeah. He's a big movie guy,
yeah.
much like yourself.
And
so I think he would.
3 people, I
Yep.
think. So then we can have a 2 out of 3.
Yeah. There's
But-
no split tie.
Yeah, you gotta watch a lot of these movies too.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm talking to you, Richie.
What?
What? No,
I'll
like
go
get
I
on
watch
Netflix. Like
I don't have
watch
Netflix,
some.
but I'll watch.
You don't
it.
have Netflix.
I do not.
All right, the only person in the world who doesn't have Netflix, ladies and gentlemen, Richie Denell. Hey!
I have another.
Hulu.
I have the Amazon Fire Stick.
So you have Prime.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, there's.
Do you have
actually,
a VHS player?
I do not.
You do not.
But on Amazon, you can get an app that actually gives you every TV show and every movie in the history of movies and TV shows.
I have Fire TV Stick. That doesn't exist.
I bet you. When we
All
get
right.
off of this, I will show you.
Okay, well, I'm sure it's illegal in Alaska.
It
along
might
with
be illegal in
Wisconsin.
Alaska. No, it's not illegal in Wisconsin. Chuck has it. Chuck got it for me.
All right. Well, we're gonna. We're talking sports, not we're talking Amazon Fire TV Stick.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Who, by the way, we love, and we would love it if Amazon Fire TV Stick sponsored us.
Yes,
So,
and any musical things that they have, or not musical things, but any type of listening.
where are
they'd
you
be able to
going
put
with
us
this?
on.
Where are you going? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. It's been a fun week. We're still standing strong after 7 episodes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Richie.
Yes, thank you, Ben.
And everybody have a great weekend.